that, and we're gonna post this on our FTP site, so you'll be able to access it later. All right, here we go. We're recording, I think.
All right. Well, welcome to the Von Braun Astronomical Society, or VBAS, as we like to call it. I'm Eric Slakowski, the Astronomy Day Coordinator for 2020. This is our first virtual Astronomy Day. COVID strikes. So hope everybody is healthy and well as we sit off in our little cubby holes at home or wherever we may be, and not up on Monte Sano, where we would like to be. So, you know, when I signed up to coordinate this as a traditional in-person astronomy day, as we do every year, you know, wasn't expecting we'd get into this virtual land that we are in now. So, you know, please bear with us as we go through this today, because we've never done a virtual event of this scope and magnitude before, so we're all sort of learning as we go along. So keep that in mind. A little bit about us, for those who are not familiar. VBAS is an astronomy club and an all-volunteer organization. You know, everything you see today is put together by volunteers sharing their time and talents. So please view it as our gift to the community. You know, they're mostly not super slick, high production value videos or documentaries like you would see on the Science Channel or whatever. They're put together by amateur astronomers like you or I, who are interested in the subject, but not professionals. That's the great thing about VBAS being a club, is that you can participate and be a part of these events and actually do amateur astronomy, you know, learn from others, not just watch professionals talk about it or do it. So that's what we love about VBAS. So hopefully these presentations are going to be of value to you today, especially if you're, you know, someone just interested in how to become an amateur astronomer for the first time, or if you've been at it for a while and, you know, there's always more that you can learn. So as a club, of course, we survive on the members' ships and people's participation and being part of the organization and helping out. Membership rates are very reasonable at $36 a year for a family rate, $24 for single, and $12 for a student. And that, you know, during non-COVID times, we have a Planetarium show every Saturday night, and that gets you in free to that, and for all the, you know, various club activities that we do. So, as I said, you know, we are our facilities up on Monte Sano State Park. And on a normal Saturday night at 7:30, we would be having our Planetarium show. On a normal astronomy day, we'd be having these events up there for the general public on the Monte Sano State Park and in our facilities. We normally get somewhere around 200, 250 folks showing up, and we like to invite our sister organizations like you know, the NASA outreach folks. We usually have AIAA and HAL 5 Society and a few others come up and join us and share their activities with folks. So usually it's a very good time. This time of year is especially good, although today, you know, the weather wasn't going to cooperate too much. So those are things we do. We normally would have telescopes in the observing field and our solar scopes out on a clear day. We also do meteor watching events, Messier marathons, star parties, sidewalk astronomy, these kinds of things. Our monthly club meetings are on the third Friday at 7:30. We usually precede that with pizza at 7 o'clock, so you can kind of get to know people a little bit before the show starts, or before the meeting starts, I should say. And then we also have some other programs going on during normal times. The Stellar Instructor program for our youth. We have Jeff Delmas doing the Night at the Observatory program, where you can come up to the facility with a small group for the evening, with seeing through our large telescopes, learning a little bit how they work, and just having a good time up at the observatory. Jeff has also taught a observational astronomy course through the OLLI program, I believe. that he, brings people up to VBAS for that as well. So, during the lockdown, of course, a lot of the in-person or all the in-person activities essentially have been postponed or put off. So we've been living off of Zoom, and we've been having our monthly meetings on the third Friday at 7:30 p.m. And we call them monthly meetings on purpose rather than member meetings because you don't have to be a member to attend our monthly meeting. Of course, we'd love you to join, but if you're just thinking about it, don't know if it's something you really want to do, or have some friends who may be interested, it's free. Come on up or join our Zoom meeting and see what we're all about. We also have a couple of what we call special interest groups, or SIGs, SIGs, that meet by Zoom. We've got the first Friday of the month at 7:30, kind of the general special interest group of people talking about doing amateur astronomy. And then we have one specifically devoted to astrophotography that meets on the second Friday of the month. So we've got a Zoom meeting going on the first, second, and third Fridays of every month at 7:30. So there's still a lot going on, at least in terms of interaction and being able to learn about amateur astronomy from each other during these COVID times. We also have our librarian, Jeff Bennett, who will deliver VBAS library books to your home, contactless, of course. So that's available through our webpage if you're a member of the society. Normally on Astronomy Day, of course, we sell t-shirts up at VBAS for the event. We've got some great t-shirts available through Green Pea Press, which is at Low Mill. And we've got a website link that we can share, will be shared to get you to that site. So the reasonably priced, $20, special theme for Astronomy Day, some good quotes on the back that I think do a good job of capturing the spirit of 2020. So check those out. Also, some of you may have found out about this event through the Huntsville Science Festival webpage. Of course, the Huntsville Science Festival was the first time they were going to do it, and they got pushed to virtual land as well. We actually timed our event for today, the 24th, to be kind of the kickoff for the Science Week, Science Festival Week. So we're actually their kickoff event. They've got a website with a lot of good information. They're going to have all kinds of really interesting science lectures throughout the week, and they'll be posting them up on YouTube as well, along with our stuff will get posted to YouTube after this event. So definitely encourage you to look at what they've got going. It's across the gamut of science. They've got some interesting stuff about the squirrels and other biological topics out there too, and dinosaurs and so forth. So a lot of really cool stuff to look into. They also got a fundraiser going on there where they've got this incredible painting that they are going to be auctioning off, and I'm going to show you, share my screen and show you what that painting looks like. So hopefully you can all see that. It is a painting of Jupiter with its tiny innermost moon Amalthea passing over the incredible swirls of Jupiter. It's by a pretty famous painter, Dr. Julius Casotoni. I'm probably pronouncing his name very poorly. But he's painted murals for the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. So he's a pretty famous guy, and kind of pricey. The opening bid, I think, is $850. So, but it's a really neat painting. Another thing that they are going to be doing is auctioning off a specially designed coin from the Canadian Mint, which will actually have it's a silver coin with an actual meteorite piece in it. So I'm not sure how much their opening bid on that is, but pretty cool stuff of high interest to us amateur astronomy types. And they're going to donate a portion of the proceeds to VBAS Foundation once that gets going. Okay, stop share. So, yeah, so I definitely encourage you to check out the Huntsville Science Festival. And now I'm going to introduce our president, Don Martin. He's also our acting vice president, newsletter editor, and one of the SIG leaders. So you could tell that we are a volunteer organization, and we've got a lot going on, but we could always use more people to step up and help out and use their talents for the organization. I'll turn it over to Don.
Hey, thank you, Eric. Yeah, today the theme, as I think Eric pointed out, is that we're going to try and help people learn how to be amateur astronomers, which really means how do we, as individuals, how do we explore the universe? How do we use telescopes? What do we look at? Why do we look at them? Some basic things that amateurs want to know so that they can do what they do. So I'd like to thank Eric for organizing this. It's been really confusing. We were going to go, we were going to try and go, people to check advertise. We have radio ads, we have billboards. This year, no. So anyway, so I'm going to kind of give you a more or less a plug here for joining membership, for joining VBAS. It's $36 a year for families, $24 for single, and if you're a student, it's $12. You get a free newsletter. I'll paste the link. We're going to try and paste links and stuff in the chat window, so that if somebody mentions a link or something, we'll be able to give it to you pretty directly. I'm not sure this one's going to work right, but you can, if it doesn't work right, you can at least figure out. Oops, I think I just sent that to Eric. Hang on. If it doesn't, you should be able to figure out what to do. Basically, you just send an email to vbas.list@gmail.com, and then in the subject field, you put the word subscribe, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to type a message or anything. It's just an automated program, and it uses the subject field as a command. So you either say subscribe or remove if you get tired of us. The other thing I would like to say is, when you're an amateur astronomer, one of the toughest things is finding a place to go. Like, you can do it in your backyard or your front yard or your driveway, but that's probably not the darkest place. And we really want dark places. So you should know that as a member, you have access to our observing field. And you can go out there at 10 o'clock at night and set up your telescope and start doing stuff. If that's what you want to do. It's pretty good. There's a gate code, so you need to have the gate code. So you'll have to communicate with somebody. The gate code's available to members, and we'll just tell you what it is. It's not like it's a big deal or anything. There's lots of people who know it. But then we have another site we call it Kennemer, and it is really a quite dark site. I've done a lot of things out there, and it's much, much better than the VBAS observing field. It's about 30 minutes from downtown Huntsville, so that's pretty good. Like I say, it only takes me 30 minutes or so to get out there, and I'm ready to go. I start setting up, and nobody bothers you. We have the legal right to do it. We pay for that. We pay the owners of the property, so it's legal. You don't have to worry about the cops showing up and chasing you out or anything like that. And it's quite dark. As Eric said, we now meet on the first, second, and third Fridays by Zoom. And if you wanted to, you could even on the last Friday of the month, you could join Shoals Astro. So we'll give you if there's 5 Fridays in a month, you get the 4th Friday off. And other than that, you've got stuff to do. And we've also got a buyer's guide for telescopes. So if you guys are interested in buying a telescope after the end of all this, or maybe you're there now, we usually send out around this time of the year, around the November newsletter, we send out a buyer's guide that tells you, it gives you, we have 2. We have one that Jeff made and one that I made. And the one that I made gives you a list of various places to get stuff and what to buy and how much they cost. And it kind of gives you sort of like an overview of what your options are and what what things cost, and if you have a budget of $500, what can I get for $500? It's not exhaustive because this is such a huge industry, but it will at least get you started on it, and it has a list of suppliers, so you can go through this list of suppliers and go to their websites and just see what they've got and so on and so forth. So that should be coming out at the end of the month. And then also Jeff has one where he talks about what you need in a good telescope that will, some people, what his guide does is it says, if you want to make one purchase, you're only going to buy this one time, here's what you need to look for, and here's what you need to get, and here's what you don't need, and so on and so forth. So his is also very good. They work together in parallel very well. And then lastly, I just want to say we have t-shirts. So I have to buy every year for my family. I've got to buy 4 of these things. They're $20 a piece. So yeah, go check out the t-shirts. I don't know if we've got, if we've pasted the link in the chat group yet, but it should be there pretty quick. So I think I put the email subscribe, the newsletter subscription, and we'll be pasting other links in that chat window. So keep your chat window open so you can see what else is going on here. All right, and that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Eric, and you can start introducing people. Eric?
All right, thanks, Don. So I wanted to go through the our agenda for today. So I'm going to put that up. So yeah, here we are in the introduction. We're going to have this first session is about introduction to amateur astronomy, and then we'll go into some of the tools for observing, talking about visual as well as solar, and Jeff Delmas got a couple good recordings from his class he's been teaching on sky coordinates and telescopes and so forth. Then we've got a few videos that are more kid-friendly on some activities that they can do at 5 p.m. And then we'll go into some of the things that you can observe. Normally we'd be getting closer to a dark sky at 5:30 as we head towards night and be thinking about what we can see. Of course, today is going to be a cloudy night. But we'll go into the October night sky, the moon, and some of the Astronomy League observing programs and the Messier objects. And then there's a few advanced topics at 6:30, talking about sketching the night sky and astrophotography. And then at 7:30, we'll have our evening session with hopefully, we'll have a lot of good discussion on live observing and how, telescope setups and how the things you see in the sky will look in the telescope, and some small videos and so forth. So, and we'll wrap up around 10, or, if people want to hang out longer, that's fine as well. But I suspect we'll all get a little bit tired by then since we don't have a sky to look at. So that's the program for today. A few ground rules. Please try to keep your microphones muted unless you're actually talking during a presentation or a question and answer session. We are going to try to do some question and answers, but we actually, as you can see, have quite a bit to cover, and so we will be a little bit limited on that if we want to try to stay on schedule. I really want to stick to the session times in case, if you can't stay for a session, want to come back later, say at 5 or 5:30 or 6:30 session, that will be pretty close to that start time. So let's all cooperate and try to keep us on that schedule. Of course, you can always ask questions in the Zoom chat room, and there's plenty of amateur astronomers on the line who can help you if the speaker's busy speaking, or after speaking. You could also send private messages direct to the speaker. It might be able to answer after the talk. So a number of these are going to actually be videos, and some are going to be live. So it's kind of a mix of both. But we are going to be recording the sessions, as Don said. So fair warning. Let's keep it nice. So and the plan is to post them to our YouTube channel. If you haven't found our YouTube channel, just look up VBAS on YouTube and you should be able to find it. And I think we got some links that'll be showing up in the chat window as well. So okay, so I think we're ready for the first presentation, unless there's any quick questions. All right, so I'm going to launch into the first presentations, which happens to be my talk on kind of an introduction to amateur astronomy, and it's a video I put together from PowerPoint. So I'm going to launch into that. Hi, I'm Eric Silkowski, a member of the von Braun Astronomical Society and the Astronomy Day coordinator for 2020. This year, our theme for Astronomy Day is how to be an amateur astronomer. So I think it's very appropriate to begin with a presentation to set the stage for today's events. My talk will first cover some of our history. Who were these amateur astronomers and how did they come to build this organization and facility that we call VBAS? Second, what was it that motivated them? Why were they fascinated with the heavens? Lastly, I'll give a very broad overview of the hobby of amateur astronomy that we at VBAS have enjoyed doing for 66 years. Throughout the remainder of Astronomy Day, VBAS members will go into more detail on how you too can become an amateur astronomer or expand your knowledge and skills as an amateur astronomer. So I hope you'll stay with us and enjoy these presentations, discussions, and observing sessions. Now let's get started. Imagine yourself here at the VBAS facility in Montesano State Park, Huntsville, Alabama. Even though you're only in VBAS in a virtual sense, in reality, in the big scheme of things, you're also here and here. When we step back from the daily routine and we remember what is up there in the night sky, we get a whole different perspective on our place in the grand scheme of things. This knowledge that there is more out there is what motivates amateur astronomers, and this is what motivated the founders of our society. Our Huntsville story begins during the darkest days of World War II. In 1941, Redstone Arsenal is founded as a chemical weapons production center to fight against Nazi Germany, which had overrun most of Europe. Meanwhile, in Germany, a team of scientists and engineers perfected the ability to launch heavy payloads on large liquid-fueled rockets, the deadly V2. No one present during the Redstone Arsenal founding could have imagined that only 9 years later, in 1950, some of those same German scientists, having been captured and converted to the cause of freedom, would take up residence in Huntsville. Huntsville's Redstone Arsenal was selected as the location for rocket development because of its abundance of vacant space post-war and its great transportation for rocket materials and rockets via the Tennessee River, road, and rail. Today we see United Launch Alliance in Decatur ship large rockets to the Kennedy Space Center starting on the Tennessee River. The rocket team made rapid progress, advancing towards larger and ever more powerful rockets. In 1960, the team would become part of the National Aeronautics and Space Agency, or NASA, which was created in 1958. Dr. von Braun, head of the now Marshall Space Flight Center, seated on a table in the photograph, became America's spokesperson for the exploration of space, explaining his ideas in magazines and on television. Yet long before his prominence as a national and international celebrity during the Apollo era, von Braun was thinking about how to get people excited about space and about science. Wernher von Braun had long been interested in astronomy. When he was 13 years old, he got his first telescope as a gift on the occasion of his confirmation in the Lutheran Church. At the age of 16, he convinced his school principal to let him and his classmates build an observatory, which they did, laying the concrete foundation and building the wooden structures themselves. Von Braun said, "My interest in astronomy actually preceded my interest in rocketry. In fact, the former triggered the latter." Von Braun's interest in observational astronomy was rekindled in 1954 when Huntsville High School student Sam Pruitt wrote him a letter asking how to start an astronomy club. Von Braun jumped on board with Dr. Ernst Stuhlinger. They held a series of informal meetings at the home of Dr. Martin Schilling, another Redstone Arsenal Rocketeer, during the winter of 1954 and early spring of '55. In Dr. Ernst Stuhlinger's book on von Braun, he relates the story of how von Braun immediately pushed for obtaining a telescope and building an observatory. In fact, they identified Wilhelm Angela, a guidance and control engineer, to be the perfect man to do the job. Turns out, Angela was sleeping in bed at the time, and von Braun called his house, insisted on talking to him, and bade him to put on his shirt and pants and come right over to the meeting, which he did. Angela loved the idea and got right to work on designing the building. With the idea of an observatory to drive them, they then focused on organizing and putting their plans in motion. In April 4th, 1955, von Braun was elected president of the still informal club. The Rocket City Astronomical Association was officially born in December 1955. After scouting a site in Monte Sano State Park, they were able to lease the 13.5-acre parcel of land for only $1. It was only many years later, after von Braun had moved to Alexandria, Virginia, to become Deputy Associate Administrator for Planning at NASA headquarters, that the Society asked and received his permission to name itself the Von Braun Astronomical Society, or VBAS, in his honor. As soon as the land was theirs, members eagerly began to prepare the site for construction. Von Braun, Stuhlinger, and Conrad Swanson were among the most active workers. You can see they did all the work themselves, sometimes with the help of a crane from the arsenal. Work crews gathered every Wednesday evening and on many weekends. Many local businesses donated materials and funds. Although the observatory construction began in April of 1956, it was sufficiently advanced by September to permit observation of the direct opposition of Mars on September 6th, with the 16.5-inch telescope von Braun was able to purchase. Von Braun was a frequent user of the telescope, which for him meant mostly the hours between 1 and 3 a.m. In 1959, when he received word from Germany that his mother had passed away, he drove up to the observatory late at night and spent hours alone scanning the heavens. In 1960, plans were made to upgrade from the 16.5-inch telescope to a 21-inch telescope, which was completed in 1965, and you see in this photo. A planetarium is a natural companion to the observatory. It's a very useful tool for teaching astronomy and for revealing the wonders of the sky to the public. The building, a 40 by 40 foot Butler shell, was furnished on the inside by volunteer VBAS members. The biggest job was to assemble the 33-foot diameter dome at floor level and to hoist it up intact 7 feet. The hoisting was done by turning simultaneously 16 nuts on 16 threaded rods, and these were bolted to the building's steel roof beams to support the dome in place. The dome, the 33-foot diameter dome, is actually a Saturn V third-stage fuel tank top-half bulkhead test unit that was obtained, obviously, from the Apollo program. The heart of the Wernher von Braun Planetarium is the projector. We currently use Spitz A3P, which allows us to show the stars, the planets, and the ecliptic, which is the path that planets travel through the sky, and several other features of the night sky. During non-COVID times, we hold planetarium shows up on Monte Sano every Saturday night. At the dawn of the space age, the Rocket City Astronomical Association published a quarterly space journal The first issue, published in the summer of 1957, came out before Sputnik launched in October of that year. The goal was, quote, for the not so scientifically minded man to understand more about science and its ever increasing effect on man's very existence, unquote. It contained articles by leading space advocates written for the average person, and it even contained some science fiction. It was a great way to get the word out about what astronomers were discovering and how we might actually visit these places one day. You'll notice some of the striking artwork on most of the covers. Some of the artists influenced Stanley Kubrick and later went on to design the sets on his movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now let's turn to what's getting these fine folks so excited, the heavens. Just what to get excited about. Let me give you a modern overview of. I think it's fair to say that most people have heard, either in school or from news stories, that the universe is big, really big. They've heard that there are stars and planets, there are galaxies, or even black holes, and that the universe is billions of years old. But I also think it's fair to say that most people don't stop to really ponder, to really think about the magnitudes of the numbers. Even those of us who do stop to ponder can't really comprehend the sheer immensity of the universe and the incomprehensibility of deep time. Here are just a few examples to think about. On the right, the map shows a circle 2,000 kilometers in diameter. Let's have that represent our galaxy, the Milky Way. Now note that the Milky Way has somewhere between 200 and 400 billion stars. It's so big that light takes 100,000 years to cross it. That's 100,000 light years. Now consider that if the green circle were our galaxy, then our entire solar system would be the size of a quarter lost somewhere on the side of the road in Nebraska. If you've ever driven across country or even down to the beach, you will have a better feel for just how small, how almost insignificant our entire solar system is on the scale of the galaxy. Now take a look at the figure on the left. Our Milky Way is in the center. Each of the panels is one or more orders of magnitude, factors of 10, smaller or larger. Our local group of about 54 galaxies has a diameter of about 10 million light years. The local group is part of a supercluster. You probably don't know, but our supercluster is called Laniakea. It's a Hawaiian word for open skies or immense heaven. It is over 100,000 galaxies, and it's about 520 million light years across. Above that, there are clusters of superclusters. And the observable universe seems to be about 93 billion light years across and contains at least 2 trillion galaxies. On top of that, the whole thing is 13.8 billion years old, and our sun is 4.8 billion years old. It's truly mind-boggling in scale, but also mind-boggling for all those things that it contains. The range of objects in the heavens is wide. Everything from our familiar terra firma to dwarf planets made of ice, comets, asteroids. Our familiar sun, but also blue and red giant stars, red dwarf stars, carbon stars, old stars, and bright new stars. There are incredible groupings of stars and open and globular clusters. Amazing gas clouds forming stars are being blown away from newly formed stars. There are an immense variety of galaxies of all shapes. Scientists have even detected black holes. But not just the objects themselves are varied, but also the physical processes that shape them. Yes, the universe is truly amazing, the stuff of great science books. Yet what I find most amazing is that we don't have to leave the universe to the professionals. We, that is anyone with an interest, can actually witness many of these amazing things with our own eyes. You don't need fancy equipment to be an amateur astronomer. The first step in actually being an amateur astronomer is just paying attention to the sky, both day and night. Just paying attention to the sun's position in the sky or shadow throughout the day is amateur astronomy. No equipment needed. Watching the sun's position across the seasons will tell you an awful lot about the orbit of the Earth around the sun. Then there's the moon. We can see a lot of features on the moon with the naked eye. You can watch the rising and setting times of the moon each day and the phases throughout a lunar month. It's very easy to learn the constellations these days with free smartphone applications that allow you to hold the phone up to the sky and know what you're looking at. With a little research, you can learn which of the stars are blue giants and red giants, which will live for billions of years to come, and which, like the red giant supergiant Betelgeuse, might supernova tonight or sometime in the next 100,000 years. Another fun activity that takes no equipment is meteor watching. Predicted meteor shower dates are well known in advance and available on the internet. All you need to do is go to a place outside town with darker skies, sit back, and enjoy the show. Something else you can easily see in dark skies on a clear night is the Milky Way itself. Another awe-inspiring sight is our near neighbor in the local group of galaxies, the Andromeda Galaxy. At 2 million light years away, it's still large enough to be seen with the naked eye. In fact, it's larger than the moon in our sky, and amazing that you can actually see something that's 2 million light years away with your naked eye. When you really get the astronomy bug and you want to see even more, you can get some binoculars or a telescope. Here, the possibilities span the gamut. Incredible views of the moon that let you see that it's an actual world. Features of the planets, nebulae, hundreds of galaxies. It's all there to be seen with a little patience and practice. That's where the hobby of amateur astronomy comes into play. Like any interest or hobby, you get out of it what you put in. Your level of interest can grow from simple curiosity to a lifelong passion or anything in between. As I said earlier, you don't need to start with lots of equipment. It's very beneficial to learn from others who share your interest to see what's worked for them before you go out and buy a bunch of things. As I said earlier, the hobby of amateur astronomy starts with observing, and that starts with simply noticing the sky and being curious. What are the sun and the moon doing in the sky today? How can you read the cycles of the moon? How can you read the seasons? Can you identify some of the constellations? How about more? What constellations are going to be up tonight, and where are the planets? There's a lot you can notice and follow just from even casual observing. When you're ready for more, find a darker sky, look for the Milky Way, Andromeda. Remember, it takes time for your eyes to adapt to see well in the dark. If you want to be more structured in your observing, there are many great free programs as part of the Astronomical League. All VBAS members are also members of the Astronomical League and can participate in these observing programs. The best thing about observing with the eye is that it's absolutely free. It's always with you, and you don't need to carry around any extra weight. But there are some limitations. There's only one magnification. Dark adaptation is also something to consider. It takes up to 30 minutes for your pupils to fully dilate, allowing you to see the faintest naked eye objects. And one look at your cell phones or car headlights will destroy that and set you back again for another 20 to 30 minute wait while your eyes fully adapt. But there is a lot that you can see with just your eyes. The Milky Way, open clusters, the moon, the Orion Nebula. Before we talk about optics, it's important to understand the concept of field of view. Field of view measures how large or small a patch of sky you're viewing. It's measured in degrees, minutes, and seconds of arc, and it's the angle that patch of sky makes with your eye. The moon is about 1/2 a degree on the sky. The Andromeda Galaxy is about 3 times larger than the full moon. Now, planets are very small, only seconds of arc. That's 1/60th of 1/60th, or 1/360th of a degree for each second. So Mars, at its largest in this photo, is only about 1/135 the size of the moon on a sky. That's why you only see a bright dot with your eye. With binoculars, you can see a disk. With a telescope, you can begin to see features. So binoculars are often the best way to get started with optics. They're very versatile for night observing as well as wildlife watching. The numbers on the binoculars, such as 8x42, represent the magnification, 8 times bigger than naked eye, and the size of the lens, 42 millimeters. Higher magnification, the first number, means you need steadier hands to hold it up to the sky or use a tripod. Bigger lenses mean heavier, so holding it is harder to keep it steady. So it's best to try out a pair and see how well you can hold them before deciding what to buy. A telescope opens up many more possibilities for observing, both for astronomy and for terrestrial observing. The magnification and higher light gathering power allows you to see things that you simply cannot see with naked eyes or binoculars. There are many types available depending on what you want to see and do. Optical and mechanical quality are critically important for an enjoyable experience. A smaller, higher quality telescope is often better than a larger, low quality instrument. As with any hobby, you can find endless opportunities to buy more stuff. Filters, computers, cables, carrying cases, dew heaters, and you always want that larger, higher quality telescope. You can never have enough accessories. You can even observe during the day, but only with the proper equipment and careful attention to safety protocols. You can get full spectrum solar filters for most telescopes that block all but 1/1000th of the incoming light. This allows you to see the disk of the sun and sunspots. With a dedicated and expensive hydrogen alpha telescope, you can see even more detail. VBAS and some of our members actually own some very nice hydrogen alpha telescopes. You can see solar flares, granules, and filaments, structures larger than the Earth and spewing out huge amounts of energy. The neat thing about observing the sun is you can see features like flares noticeably change over the course of only 10 minutes. Many amateur astronomers enjoy trying photography at night. This is a great way to capture more than the eye can see. Even something as simple as a nightscape photo at a dark sky location can be very rewarding. Of course, you can use more sophisticated single lens reflex or even mirrorless cameras with guided telescopes for more magnified shots. And once you decide that amateur astronomy is really your thing, you can get a dedicated astronomical camera, or several. In later years, after moving to Alexandria, Virginia, Werner von Braun took many fine photographs from his backyard observatory using an 8-inch Celestron with piggyback-mounted 6-inch Schmidt camera, and it was a 60th birthday gift from his friends. Amateur astronomy can truly be a lifelong hobby. Telescope making can actually be very rewarding as well. The photograph shows a machine built by Wilhelm Angela circa 1960 for flattening the blank for a 21-inch telescope. The man in the photo is Mr. Charles M. Chambers, who worked at Redstone and was instrumental in building our first U.S. satellite, Explorer 1. The person most responsible for grinding the final optical surface on the mirror is Mr. Clarence E. Ellis, who was a life member of VBAS. His daughter, Pat Ellis Vidler, told us her remembrance of this. Quote, "Daddy loved the observatory and all that went on there. He and Dr. Angela and Conrad Swanson spent long hours discussing the telescope and astronomy in general. Daddy ground the mirror by hand in our basement, using a candle and a human hair to test the curvature and whatever. It took many months, maybe more than a year. One of my fondest memories is having him pop up from the cellar asking for someone to make coffee. He had smears of red rouge, one of the powders he was used for polishing, on his clothes and streaks on his face. He'd pull a hair, usually from me, because mine was the longest back then, and carry it carefully back down to use in his testing. It was a special time in my life, unquote. Many of us love to do public outreach when we can. Events like Astronomy Day, Sidewalk Astronomy, Observe the Moon Night are great ways to share your love of amateur astronomy. I cannot begin to tell you how neat it is to help a child or even an older adult see Saturn's rings through a telescope for the first time. It's neat to see the gleam in their eyes when they realize the universe is not contained inside the internet or only visible to trained scientists. It's right there above our heads. As you can see from the previous slides, we have many great resources for amateur astronomy at VBAS, from the Wernher von Braun Planetarium to the Conrad Swanson Observatory. You may not know that we have one of the best astronomy libraries in the Southeast. It's named for Anne Pollard Sanford, who was a longtime member of the Society and a great role model for all other women, according to the Huntsville Times. She loved nature, the outdoors, and canoeing, and took up amateur astronomy later in life. She also happened to be a librarian who whipped our book collection into shape and cataloged all the volumes, and thus we named our library in her honor. On her passing, her children donated her magnificent Questar 3.5-inch telescope, and that was a $4,000 telescope in the 1980s, with very high quality optics. We still loan her telescope out for a full year each year to a deserving youth member of the Society. Our complete library catalog is available via the internet, and our current librarian, Jeff Bennett, will deliver books to members' homes during the pandemic. Speaking of the internet, there are so many great resources available, it's easy to get drawn in for hours. You can even download free great applications for your smartphone that will point out objects in the night sky just by holding it up and pointing it around. But as I said, it's easy to get lost in all the information out there. Perhaps the best thing you can do to learn about amateur astronomy is to talk to someone who is doing it. That's where being involved in a club comes in very handy. VBAS members love to share our hard-earned knowledge. Trying to figure out what you are seeing at the night sky, looking for that through that first pair of binoculars or that first telescope, we can help. Frustrated that what you see in your telescope doesn't look like a 10-hour exposure of a Hubble Space Telescope, we can explain why and whether you are seeing what you think you should be seeing. Trust me, we've already made lots of mistakes, so ask us and we can help you get into actually enjoying the hobby sooner than you could on your own. So what's your interest in amateur astronomy? History in the Rocket City? Knowing more about the heavens? Or actually taking up the hobby? The great thing about amateur astronomy is you have a lifetime of learning, you can challenge yourself, and you can interact with some very interesting people. So we hope that you'll come up and join us at VBAS once this pandemic is over. All right, that's our first presentation. I want to get right into showing the What's Up in the Night Sky video since we are close to time, and then hold any questions for the very end. So let me
Welcome to the Von Braun.
Bring that up and share my screen.
Hey, can we stop for just a second here? We're kind of fumbling with the video here, so let me go ahead and just stop the video recording and restart it before Jared gets going. Okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go. I'm going to stop it. Stop recording. Okay. And now I'm going to try and start it back up again. Wait a minute. And we're recording again. Okay, so go ahead. Sorry about that.
Welcome to the Von Braun Astronomical Society's What's Up in the Night Sky program. I'm Jared Cassidy, the Planetarium Director here at the Von Braun Astronomical Society, and we'll take you on a brief journey through the October night sky. In this edition, we will look at some of the prominent constellations that are visible this time of the year, as well as where to find some of our solar system neighbors this month. Let's start off by looking south. On October 1st, around 9 p.m., the moon will be full in the somewhat dim constellation Pisces, located in the eastern sky. The brightness of the full moon will wash out many of Pisces' stars, however. Just to the west of due south, the two bright objects in the southern sky are the planets Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter will be on the right, the brighter of the two. Saturn is dimmer because it is smaller, but also about twice as far from the Sun as Jupiter, around 900 million miles from the Sun. Jupiter is impressive through even a small telescope, where you should be able to see a couple of its dark cloud bands and its brightest moons. You can usually see the moons with binoculars, but you will probably need a telescope to see the cloud bands. Saturn is also quite impressive, but will require a telescope to see its rings, which are tilted nicely towards us right now. The brightest star in the southern sky this time of year is Fomalhaut in the constellation Piscis Austrinus, the southern fish. This is a different constellation from Pisces, the fishes, which is to the northeast where the moon is tonight. The stars in both of these constellations are quite dim, other than Fomalhaut, and are difficult to pick out from the city. If you get up before sunrise the next day, on October 2nd, around 5:30 a.m. and look east, you will see the brilliant planet Venus in the constellation Leo the Lion. Venus is only about a half a degree from the bright star Regulus, the heart of the lion, which makes the dot of the backwards question mark shape that makes up the head and mane of the lion. Venus is quite bright, outshining all the other planets. Venus is visible most of the month before sunrise, but will be moving eastward into the glow of the sun. Because of its intense brightness, Venus is often referred to as the morning or evening star, depending on whether it is visible in the morning or evening sky. Mars and the Earth are moving towards each other in their orbits, with the closest approach on October 6th, when Mars will only be 38.6 million miles from the Earth. Mars is poised for primetime viewing this month. Looking east on October 15th, the red planet Mars shines brilliantly in the constellation Pisces, the fishes. Mars will actually outshine the giant planet Jupiter for much of the month. While you might not be able to make out the stars of Pisces from the city, you should be able to see the much brighter stars of the constellations Andromeda and Pegasus. When there is a close approach of Mars like this one, there is an urban legend that often circulates on the internet and social media stating that Mars will look as big as the moon in the night sky. This is not true, and if it were, we would be in a lot of trouble due to gravitational pulls on the Earth, Mars, and the moon. Now let's take a look towards the north, shown here on October 15th at 9 p.m. The stars of Ursa Major, including those of the Big Dipper, are dropping below the horizon and out of evening viewing for us, but they will return in the evening sky in a few months. Poised above the center is Polaris, also known as the North Star. It remains stationary as it is just next to the North Celestial Pole, the point the Earth rotates beneath. This is why Polaris appears to remain stationary throughout the night while all the other stars move across the sky from east to west. Polaris is located at the end of the handle of the asterism known as the Little Dipper, but it is officially the tip of Ursa Minor, the Little Bear's tail. Polaris is the brightest star of Ursa Minor, but it is far from the brightest star in the night sky. The other stars in the constellation are on the dim side. It is often difficult to make out the stars of the handle of the Little Dipper other than Polaris, even here at VBAS, a consequence of ever-growing light pollution. If you look overhead most any night this month, you will see three bright stars, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. If we connect those stars, they form a large triangle in the sky. We call this the summer triangle, as it is visible throughout the summer as well as most of the fall. It is not an actual constellation, but just a pattern of stars that is called an asterism. In fact, the summer triangle is made up of three different constellations: Lyra, Cygnus, and Aquila. Lyra is the lyre, a small U-shaped harp generally associated with ancient Greek culture, Cygnus the swan, and Aquila is the eagle. Vega is the brightest of the three stars and is the fifth brightest star in the night sky. You may see a faint band that almost looks like high, thin clouds through the middle of the summer triangle if you live far enough away from city lights. This is our galaxy, the Milky Way. Looking overhead, you will also see the stars of Pegasus and Andromeda. Pegasus is easy to spot by looking for the asterism known as the Great Square of Pegasus, which makes up the body of the horse. The head and front legs of the horse are visible as it flies upside down towards the west. The constellation Andromeda is attached to Pegasus on the northeast corner of the Great Square. Andromeda is home to the farthest object that can be seen with the unaided eye, the Andromeda Galaxy, which is located about 2.5 million light years away. While it is visible as a small fuzzy patch from moonless dark skies without a telescope or binoculars, the Andromeda Galaxy may be difficult to spot from an urban setting. The Orion meteor shower peaks in the early morning of October 21st around 1 a.m. If you go out around 11:30 p.m. on the night of October 20th, you may see a few Orion meteors. The Orionid shower is not one of the larger meteor showers, so you may only see about 15 meteors per hour from a dark location. The Orionids are associated with Halley's Comet. Whenever the Earth's orbit crosses the outbound path of the comet, the Orionids occur, which is around mid to late October. The meteors will appear to originate from a spot in the sky to the north of Orion, which is called the radiant, and also, because of the proximity to the constellation, that is why they are called the Orionids. Orion will just be rising in the east before midnight, the night of the 20th. On October 22nd, Jupiter and Saturn are shining brightly in the southwest sky in Sagittarius and will be joined by the Moon, which will almost be at the first quarter phase, making a nice grouping. We've increased the size of the Moon here to show its phase more clearly. On October 29th, around 7 p.m., the Moon will be nearing full and relatively close to Mars in Pisces. 2 days later, on Halloween, the Moon will be full and to the east of Mars. Looking east, the constellations Perseus, Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Pegasus, and Pisces will fill out the sky. The full moon on Halloween marks the second full moon in the month, making it a blue moon. There is nothing special about a blue moon other than that is what the second full moon in a month is called. Although this year, the full moon being on Halloween may add a bit of spookiness to the holiday. And that's it for our What's Up in the Night Sky program this month. Until next time, keep looking up at the night sky, whether you're just using your eyes, a pair of binoculars, or a telescope. For more information about the Von Braun Astronomical Society, please visit our website at www.vbas.org.
All right. That was the end of our Intro to Amateur Astronomy session. We've got time for maybe a quick question, if anyone has one. So let me throw the agenda back up. So we're about to begin our second session, which is Tools for Observing. And Tom Burleson will be kicking that off with a talk about visual observing. But before we get into that, I'm going to stop our recording and